Alright, welcome back. Hope everyone's having a lovely day, a lovely night wherever you're from. And real quick, before we get started, as always, I want to give a lovely shout out to the channel members on this channel. So thank you so much to these lovely commanders here that you see on screen. Thank you guys so much for your guys' constant generosity and support to me as always. It really means a lot to me, so thank you guys so much. And if you guys are actually interested in becoming a lovely commander yourself, if you are interested in any of these cute and lovely emotes, loyalty crown badges, you want a special role in the Discord, make sure to join the Discord. But as always, if you choose to do so, thank you so much. Just remember, that's not the only way that you can support me. Just watching the content like you are right now is truly the best way. Liking, subscribing, and commenting, everything really does help, so thank you guys so much. And for today's video, I know it's been a few days since my pooling session for Ada, but I wanted to make sure that I did some proper testing, did some good equipment checks, especially rolling the rocks. You know how it is. But it's time to discuss Ada before we get to Jill. And as always with these type of videos, I like to break it down into 3 categories. I like to break it down talking about the income, the timing, and what kind of account you have. Then I love to talk about the waifu aspect, but that's always subjective, especially because this is a collab. So that's going to be another factor. But then I also like to talk about the equipment, the skills, everything, and as well as talking about testing results. So let's get started. And I'm going to be honest, right now, as you can see, I'm using this D-Killer wife wallpaper. It's so good, bro. But right now we're not talking about her. We are talking about Ada right now. And I'm gonna be honest, right now, it's kind of a tough call. I know some people are kind of stressed right now with even wanting to pull, because we are so close to the anniversary, it's not even funny. Not only that, but there are leaks in the air, and I know some other content creators have talked about these leaks. I'm not talking about these leaks personally, okay? I don't try to cover that on this channel because I don't want to ruin it for a lot of people who don't want to know anything. That being said, for those that do know, it's pretty big, and I know for a lot of people they are just holding back now because there's no point in pulling in this collab if it means that we are so close to the ending with those insane characters. So that's completely understandable. But without all that, we also have to talk about that this is a collaboration, and with collaboration comes opinion, because either you like collabs or you don't at all and don't care for them. But if you do, you only like the ones that you like, obviously. And when it comes to this, if you like Resident Evil, maybe you'll pull for this because you like Resident Evil. But if you don't at all, you might not even care to pull for this, and I don't blame you because that's not your preference, and I completely understand that. But also, especially with a lot of the collab characters, they just get instantly power crept. We have a few cases here, especially with our Wind Asuka, where it's kind of different right now. But most of the time, they do get power crept pretty severely, but we'll see. But with Ada, it's kind of a particular case because, once again, I'm going to be talking about this in a little bit, but spoilers, this is a character that you want if you want to try to min-max in raids, and even then, it's kind of a question mark. I'm going to be 100% honest. We'll talk about why later, but right now, I do want to talk about just a little bit about the waifu aspect, because even though the waifu aspect is kind of a question mark with her, I just like that Ada's in the game, and they actually didn't completely ruin her. I think she looks great. Though not much fan service flair. I think they did a great job with how she looks. But, you know, as I mentioned this before, I gotten some weird looks, but I got more JPS than this, alright? I can make that thing shake more than this. I'm sorry. It's not that great. The weapon looks cool. For a rocket launcher, it's smart that they went with explosive arrows. I think it's cool. And then the chibi as well just looks kind of adorable. I'm just happy that we have Ada in Nikke. But I do have a complaint, and that's the costumes, okay? Like, this one's the Resident Evil 4 outfit, or I guess the Resident Evil 2 remake outfit, whatever you want to call it. But this one's the actual remake Resident Evil 4 outfit, which is just like a nicer version with like the turtleneck kind of red dress, which is fine for being a free outfit, I guess. But what annoys me is the event pass, because we got this skin as well in Resident Evil 4 Remake, and it's just the Chinese New Year dress. It's nothing like special to me, because it's just another dress. And the fact that we're getting a Jill Resident Evil 5 outfit, why didn't we get the Resident Evil 6 Ada outfit for the event pass? I think that would have been 100 times better, but hey, it is what it is. And when we're talking about equipment and everything, I do have an SR0 doll on her. I did not feel like leveling up those dolls, especially with something coming up huge, so we'll see. But then I only got 1 extra copy of her on level 20. I got her overloaded, but I did not go all the way to 5 just because that's a lot of resources, and I cannot justify that. But when we're talking about her overload, with her, you could probably just go elemental and then max ammo and then attack, just because she gets a lot of attack, but still it'd be nice for her. So for me, I kind of got lucky because I have like a whatever kind of roll here with elemental and crit. But then I got elemental attack and then a defense line that I wish I could change, but it's number 3, so I kind of want to keep it. And then I got elemental, critical, and critical damage. And then I got more attack, elemental, and 1 max ammo. So I can't really complain. I actually got a good amount of like 3 lines that are pretty good. So I'm happy about it. I actually managed to get some decent lines. So even if my luck is complete garbage, at least something went right. So that's cool, I guess. In terms of cubes, as usual when it comes to this, honestly, I feel like this is like the typical resilience just for her reload. It's just slow. So I feel like you're fine with that. Now we have some stuff to talk about when it comes to skills. And this is where my biggest gripe is. So what my biggest problem with her is that she's a buffer that does her job well, but elemental buffers still take the cake, and then debuffers still take the cake. So if you have Winter Ludmilla, you have Summer Anise, you got all these other buffers that help buff elemental, you're doing better off with that rather than having Ada take that spot, because it's still good, but elemental and debuff are just kings and they're just way better. Now this could probably be freeing up a spot to buff another team, but it's just the fact that there are so many buffers out there that you'd rather have than having Ada, especially with how much investment it takes, that it's kind of rough. And the reason why too is that not only is she just buffing attack, but it's only for specific units. It's for burst 3. But that burst 3 does come with caveats, because Red Hood really isn't a burst at all. So she actually doesn't get any of the buffs. Since she's technically 1, 2, and 3, she doesn't get any of the buffs. And if your burst 3 is an insta-wipe kind of burst like Scarlet, she's not going to get those buffs applied either. So it's very, very picky with what burst 3s are going to be used. And even then, just having burst 3s only get the buff is kind of rough. Now, in terms of skills, you could go 7, like 4-4 if you really don't want her to DPS. I think she has some actually decent, pretty good DPS. So for me, I'd honestly go 7-7-7 if you want. But if you want to just prioritize her buffs, you could even go like 10-4-4 or 10-7-7. I just kind of went all in because I hate myself, and I went 10-10-10. So your mileage may vary, but those I feel like are probably the different tiers of how you should do it, depending if you want a sub DPS, a good DPS and a buffer, or just a buffer. So just take that with what you will. Make sure you look at other people's testing, websites and all. Now let's talk about my testing results. So for context for the actual testing results, I decided to see how she would be with buffing the electric team. I wanted to see how she would be buffing Vesti for true damage, and then doing a pure DPS check just in electric with her and Ein, just to see how good her DPS can be, and then comparing that with another buffer just to see what would be the difference. And there are some interesting stuff, so let's talk about it. Now, first things first, when it came to my electric testing, I obviously did Cindy, I did Rouge, and this time I did Ein with Bunny Aid and using Ada as well, just because I really don't care or feel like dealing with Winter Maiden, honestly, at all. And Bunny Aid here is just good for buffs as well. It won't really matter since they're both giving buffs, because we're going to be replacing Ada, so that'll be the factor that changes to see if there's a difference. So right now, Cinderella is doing almost 6 billion, Rouge doing around 400 million, and I'm doing 1.7 billion, with Bunny A just doing 300 million, Ada doing close to 900 million. Now, if we were to actually swap Ada out for Summer Anise by herself is doing 1.2 billion. Now, Cinderella actually went up closer to 6 billion over here. This was a 5.818 billion to a 5.896 billion. So there was an increase here. Same for Rouge, because Summer Anise is buffing electric, so even Rouge can take advantage of it. Then Ein also went up from 1.788 billion to 1.833 billion. So there is still a noticeable buff here that I feel like is really important. I feel like that shows that even though it's really good buffs, elemental buffs just slightly take the cake even more. And then I did another test, which I'm gonna be honest, most people won't be using this team. I just wanted to see like maxed out pure DPS, what you can see, right? So I'm using Crown, Little Mermaid, Tactical Vesti, Ada, and Helm. Now for reference, this is in Fire Week testing. So the fact that Ada is actually cooking out 1.4 billion actually impressed me. I'm not gonna lie. I was actually pretty surprised about that. And then when we swap out Ada over here and we just put in Rappy Red Hood just for whatever, Vesti does go down to 1.5 billion. So she loses a little bit around 300 to 400 million. So even then, it's still kind of a question mark because I don't know if it's even worth it at all. But also, I want to say that some people have seen more drastic different results when it came down to it. So I think it's a matter of just different invested vesties. So please keep that in mind. And then real quick, this is what I wanted to do where I did an electric test using Crown. And I'm using Rappy Red Hood as the B1. Ada and Ein over here fighting an electric DPS contest. Ada doing almost 3.5 billion and Ein doing around 2.5 billion. But now here's the interesting part. When you remove Ada from the equation and you just put in just Winter Ludmilla, just for whatever reason, Ein still gets a little bit more because of Winter Ludmilla's debuffs for the enemy. I find that funny because we go from 2.556 billion to 2.588 billion. So honestly, I think for DPS, she actually does some pretty decent numbers. I'm not going to say amazing or anything, but I want to say good because that's what they are. They're pretty good numbers. But at the same time, her buffs can be great, but they're so limited compared to having elemental buffers, debuffers like Winter Ludmilla, that it's hard to try to justify because they're not going to replace them, especially in raids. So if you don't have any of those type of buffers, maybe this will be a good replacement. And I think she still might have a spot. I'm sure there's going to be some solo raid team that's going to cook up something, especially for like a 4th or 5th team. So we'll have to see. But do let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Are you guys happy about Ada? Honestly, for me, I think she's in a pretty good spot. It's kind of niche with her buffs, but what she provides is really good. Not only that, but her DPS is actually pretty surprising as well. It's nothing amazing, but it's good. Love to see it. But that is going to be it from me for now. So I hope you guys have a lovely day, lovely night wherever you're from. And as always, thank you so much for the constant support. Take care and have a good one.